until the day that you stop growing, you're always going to be achieving something. Always, always, always. So why not just embrace that fact and enjoy the journey and realize that right here, right now is the moment. It is the destination.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Powerful Man Show. I am your host, Doug Holt, with my co-host, Tim, the Powerful Man Matthews. Tim, how's it going, man?
Absolutely fantastic. As you know, just coming off the back of a phenomenal Alpha Reset retreat in Bend, Oregon, and it's been a week and I'm still on a high. So,
yeah, me too. Such an amazing thing to see the transformation that all these business owners went through, or business leaders, I should say. Being someone who's been all over the world at events, this, I got to say, was the most transformational experience that I've ever seen.
Yeah, and that's what really, humbled me, to have some of these guys here really, like you said, leaders in business who have worked with some of the best coaches around and companies around, to hear them actually say, well, the same words as you, that it was the most powerful experience that they've had and transformation that they've had in such a short space of time. That just a mixture of emotions. I was humbled. I was so proud of what we delivered as a team there in the event. I was so proud of how the guys stepped to the line and played all out the entire time. And I was really proud about the work that the team put in with the guys in the lead up to the event to get them in the right space over the 8 weeks to then really make the most of the event. It really could not have been better.
It's funny because, these Alpha Resets are geared towards, businessmen. And although we don't do deep dives into business during this retreat, I was talking to a couple of the guys yesterday. They just sent me messages, and they're actually working out have worked out different business deals just out of the retreat alone. So such an amazing byproduct of just getting your headspace right, connecting with the right people, and really taking time to better yourself. It's so understated. Anyway, I'm also on a high, so I can get passionate. I could talk about this all day. Of course, that's not what we're here for. Now, I know you had a topic that you wanted to throw on the table. What is that?
Yeah, so this is a topic that a lot of the men have been discussing in the inner circle lately. And I love how they've all been, supporting one another to get clarity on this. And I think, the listeners would benefit from us diving into this. And the question is, how do you achieve more whilst being happy with what you've already got?
Such a great question. This question does come up a lot. A lot of the men that, we work with, especially when they get to the inner circle level, they already have success, right? In the classic terms of success. And it is, what is that next thing? And do I chase the next thing? Do I flow into the next thing? And how do I not get into what you and I talk about all the time, the two paths, right? The path of hustle and grinding it out, or the path of flow and ease. So I'll jump in with just a couple thoughts on this subject I'm going through, because it's easy to get comfortable. But when you are working towards this greater goal, maybe you have something else that's coming up in one of your areas of your life, I think the practice of gratitude, which, is often talked about, but is understated. The practice of gratitude and being grateful for what you have is an amazing practice. It allows you to stay grounded while you're going after your next goal, whatever that may be. So let's just use it as an example that a lot of people can relate to. If you're already doing well in the area of business, for example, and you want to take it to the next level, maybe you want to take it to the next level because, well, you want more money. But for a lot of people, a lot of men that are successful like yourself, Tim, what they're going to think is, hey, I'm already comfortable. I already have plenty of money. But it's the man that you're going to become as you raise that bar, right? That's the reason a lot of wealthy, successful men take it to the next level. It's not because they need or desire more money, so to speak, as a measuring stick. A lot of them really are doing it because of the person that they get to become on that journey. And I think while you're on that journey, one of the keys is really practicing that gratitude piece, right? Gratitude in all areas of your life. And what I always recommend to people is start off first thing in the morning, absolute first thing in your journaling practice is writing down at least 5 things you're grateful for. Now, you can do this in the shower. You can do this in the car if you're commuting. I recommend writing it down because studies show putting pen to paper, right, actually has a kinesthetic effect on your emotions and actually anchoring things into you. Now, to take it a step further, my wife and I, before bed every single night, ask, what are your magic moments? Right? It's pretty much a grateful practice, but really we're talking about in that day, what are the things that you are grateful for? What are those magic things that happen in your life? And that's her terminology, and I love it because then I get to look back through my day and go, wow, you know what happened? Today I was able to talk to Tim, who's across the world, and we were able to talk about conversations that matter. Or, earlier this morning, I was able to wrestle with my son. He was climbing all over me. And it was so fun to hear him giggle. And that's important because throughout the day, we can get lost in the minutia. Maybe it's a sales call that didn't go through. Maybe it's, a staff member who is upset. Maybe it's something else that's going on in our lives. And we tend to focus on the problems rather than all the things that went right. So I think that's a great start to get going and really feel grateful for what's going on in your life.
And I love how you included, how to do this either at the start of the day to write it down, because we hear the term gratitude get thrown about so much. And it's very easy for gratitude to just be another thing that is on the to-do list. Oh, I'm going to go through my gratitude this morning, boom, tick it off, done. And, what I'm hearing you say, Doug, when you were describing it was within the process, by default, you were then going to slow down and really be with the process. So instead of the gratitude being something to do, it's actually something to be, something to experience, which when you actually then absorb it, it really lands for you and your cup is then full, rather than it just being, like I say, another thing to do that you brush on by and you think you're being grateful, you think you're practicing gratitude, but there's a big difference between something to do and something to be.
And you bring up such a great point right there, that most of the men that you and I work with, when we meet them, right, their kind of process is do, have, be, right? If I do my gratitude practice, then I get this feeling, right? Then I can be grateful. And it's not that. It doesn't work that way. Now, I'm going to give you the formula that does work, and it's simple, right? But it takes a lot of mindset practice to get here, but it's be, do, have. First, you got to be the man that you want to be. You have to embody that person, right? Then you do the work, right? In this case, you truly be grateful, and then you do the work by writing it down, and then you get to have that sense of peace. So it's be, do, have. But again, you and I know this probably better than anybody. 99% of the men that, come in are high performers. And these aren't, the people we're talking about here aren't slacks. They're not people slacking off. They're people who've been through lots of personal development. Most of them have been to conferences. They just didn't get the right mindset going through there. And so they, that's where the Alpha Reset really kind of, it's intense, right? And we kind of flip that switch to allow them to reprogram themselves to first be that person, then do, then have. Rather than going through a to-do list and just checking off things because you can outgrind somebody or that's what you're supposed to do.
Yeah, and you raise such a great point because, with a lot of the men that we work with, they are hustlers at the start. They are grinding it out. One destination, two paths. They are very much on that path of hustle, push, grind, force. It has to be a struggle. If there's no struggle, then it doesn't feel right. Easy is cheating, all that kind of stuff. Linking back to the initial question of how do you achieve more whilst also really appreciating what you've got, one of the key things that we get to bring into this is the whole balance between the masculine and the feminine. Because the guys that we work with when they come to us, they're very much in the masculine, aren't they? Boom, go, 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 grind, grind, grind. And that is where everything becomes something to do. That's where your pace of life is just too fast. You're living too fast and too hard. And whenever you're in that place, you're always going to struggle to feel the appreciation for where you're at. It's just not possible. So based on your observations of, the guys that we've worked with, what do you think about that?
Well, in terms of balancing masculine and feminine energy?
Yeah, and the role that this plays, these guys being dominant in the masculine, how that is, causing them to struggle to appreciate where they're at whilst striving for more.
Hey guys, I had to interrupt this show because I want to talk to you about a case study we put together. It's only 11 minutes, and what we do is we go over and show you how almost 300 men have taken control of their life, have already 4x'd their business revenue, and are having more connected and intimate sex with their partner using the activation method. And they're doing all of this without burning down their relationships and without suffering and sacrificing their health. We want you to have this too. So go over to thepowerfulman.com/11, the number 11, 11, and get this right now. It's only 11 minutes, and it's going to show you exactly how these men have done it. All right, let's get back to the episode.
Just to give the listeners, I know when I first started hearing people talk about masculine and feminine energy, I just had this picture of alpha man versus, submissive woman. Truthfully, and it took me a little while to really fully get it. And that's not what we're talking about here at all, just so everybody knows. And the masculine energy tends to be around that idea of grinding it out, right? I will hustle you. You hear that all the time. And the funny thing is, we said this at the last retreat, the men got around and almost every guy had a story that they could outwork everybody. I can outwork everybody. I will outwork you, I'll beat you. And I don't know if you remember, I looked at him, I'm like, you can't possibly be the best, the hardest worker in the world. Everybody can't be it. There's only one. So we all have that story. I'll pull myself up by my bootstraps and I'll outwork you, I'll out hustle. It doesn't work, right? You just get burnt out. And I've been there. And so I can tell you firsthand, not only hearing it from the men, but I've been there. And Tim, I'm sure you have too, where you're out there grinding it out in your masculine energy. And it's kind of like, in a war mode. And there's men's groups out there that just talk about war all the time. We're going to war. And that's not the way to look at it, right? Because the only thing that going to that energy leads to burnout. It leads to disappointment because you're constantly going, you're constantly grinding, but you're not enjoying. And there's a way of being, the yin and the yang. And I'm probably saying that wrong, but it's a way of having energy balances in your life and having a way of going with flow. We've all been in that flow state. Talking about whether it be sports or business or in relationships where everything just seems to work so well and come so easy. And, a lot of people tend to self-sabotage that flow state and break it up. And it's a limiting belief factor, right? That usually happens, or maybe it's a story that it shouldn't be this easy, or, I shouldn't be able to make money. Money stories are very typical in this example. Like, you have to work your ass off to make money. You have to, it's hard to make money. Money doesn't grow on trees. All these things that we've been told over the years. Yet you and I have seen countless people who just seem to do it effortlessly and easily. And it's not because they're smarter. It's just because they're in that flow state, be, do, have, and they've embodied it. They've just surrendered to that state of being, and it's allowed them, to really go. Now, these are very masculine men. They're doing this, but they're tapping into the feminine energy, right? The essence of themselves, and being masculine at the same time. And that's where you get the balance. And I think a lot of these men really haven't given themselves permission to be anything else than the John Wayne type character. I'm speaking from the United States, but the John Wayne type character that our fathers grew up with. And, you have to be tough. You can't show emotions. You got to grind it out. Get up at 4 a.m. and, don't stop working till 10 p.m. and do that every day. The problem is you get burnt out, you become an asshole really. And then you look up and no one's around, right? Even if you're providing for people, no one wants to be around the non-present jerk in the room, which tends to be a business owner who's working too hard, right? They have nothing else to give. And in that state, Tim, it's impossible to truly be grateful for your journey because you're tearing things down. You're really just tearing everything around you down.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I totally can relate as well. That was me for 28 years of my life. And, if I'm totally honest, that is my default. This question, this dance that we're talking about between the masculine and the feminine and enjoying things, it's the dance that I get to do every day. It really is. I know you're the same, Doug. No one's perfect. But the point is we're in the process. And for me, what that looks like is, the first 5 hours of the day, my phone's on flight mode. Now I wake up, usually around 6:30, go downstairs, make a juice. I get to the gym for about 6:30, work out, go in the sauna, meditate, journal, and I finish up there probably by around 9ish, 9:30, and then I write. I get the key things done for the business that I love to do, which for me is things like this and writing and video. So I've got no distractions in that first literally 5 hours of the day. It's all mine. I'm setting the tone. I'm setting it how I want it to be. Nobody can get in touch with me. Nobody can disrupt not only my focus, but my energy. And for me, whenever I encroach on that, whenever I just, I'll just take my phone off flight mode. I'll just check this one thing. I'll just go into my email. I'll just do whatever. Whenever I allow myself those excuses or whatever validation I give it in the moment, I always pay a price. Always. There's a direct, consistent rule between how consistent I am with my morning routine and how strict I am to how much gratitude and appreciation and also productivity I experience on a day-to-day. It's without a doubt.
Oh, yeah. Well, I think that's also important. And thank you for sharing that, that you're not perfect and that we aren't. Thanks for telling everybody that I'm not perfect too. But I think that's what it is. And I call it getting your reps, right? Like we all have a default mode. And if you've been doing this for 28 years, for example, as you used, I think that's what you said, then you've had, only several years to try something new. And you need to get your reps in. You don't go to the gym, work out one time and expect to be ripped and buff and get stronger every day. No, you do it every single day till it becomes a habit. And that's the same thing with catching yourself, right? We all have default modes that we go into. The difference is when you're doing the reps, so to speak, you're repeating the process over and over again like you are. You're catching yourself like, hey, I'm going to this default mode. Let me retract. Let's go back to what I know works, which is setting aside my time, putting my phone on airplane mode, except for when Doug calls, things like that, right? Those are the key things that you want to be doing. And the more and more you do those, it just becomes like brushing your teeth, right? It falls into the brush your teeth category where you just automatically, you get up, you brush your teeth after you eat, before you go to bed, you brush your teeth or whatever your habits are, right? You just don't think about it. You just do it and it just becomes you. And it's the same thing with these triggers or these habits. And even being grateful becomes just something you just are, right? That's the B part. You just do it over and over and again to get your reps. And when you default, you catch yourself in a microsecond, like a split second, you catch yourself and rewrite, or redirect your course of action. And I think that's the difference. I think a lot of people just assume when they look at successful people, and you define success in your own way, it's from the outside. That's just easy for them, right? You and I talk about that bridge between the two paths, right? The people who are on the path of struggle and are on this path of really just grinding it out and then filling their void with women, alcohol, drugs, TV, sedation, whatever it is. They look at the guy who's successful, who seems to have it easy, and they label that guy as lucky. And the person isn't lucky, right? We don't talk about it. The guy that's successful doesn't go, oh, I'm not. They say, yeah, I'm lucky. It's just easier for him to say that. The truth is he's in a flow state. He's made his patterns. He's caught his patterns and he's used his reps to make it just easy, right? And it just becomes who he is. And that's the B part. And we're all in that phase in different levels, right? We all have different layers of the onion, so to speak, that we're pulling back. And, sometimes we default and go, okay, this is a season to hustle. And this is a season to work. And I think another thing that's important that you mentioned, Tim, is when you're laying out your morning, right? Your morning routine, which is kind of your ideal morning, you're not being lazy, right? That's the difference that I think a lot of people think. They think, he's going to the gym and he's journaling and, he's got his, he's trying, he runs, he's running a men's movement, global men's movement. Why isn't he getting up at 4 a.m. and really pushing this forward? And it's not because you have a lack of passion. It's not because you have a lack of work ethic. What you're doing is actually working. You're just working in a more efficient way that works for you. And that's not lazy at all.
Yeah, that's one of the things that I really got to overcome, the whole, being busy versus productive. I was addicted to being busy for a long time, but I also recognized how much of a void that created in my life. And no matter what I achieved, I just didn't ever feel grateful for it. And I really struggled to appreciate it because one, I was living too fast and too hard. So I didn't have any time in my day or any tools or techniques within my day to really, dive into gratitude. And then when I did, it became something to do versus something to be. And then the whole label around, being lazy, taking time for yourself. I was speaking to one of the guys today that came on the Alpha Reset retreat, and he's got 2 date nights a week, one with himself and one with his partner, his girlfriend. He doesn't have a girlfriend yet, but it's his intention to find a woman of his dreams because he's always settled in a relationship. And literally just today, he was saying to me, well, a second date night, I don't have a woman there yet, so I just work through it. I said, well, what are you going to do? Are you just going to then create the time when she's there? Well, I said, well, I could just date myself for a second time. Oh, wow. Don't you be doing that. You cannot be dating yourself twice in a week. Who do you think you are? And he's there laughing. It's all the definitions, isn't it, of grind it out and success and whatnot. So, yeah, you're totally right in what you're saying. And, for me, one of the things that we've not yet touched on in this is perspective. Because one of the things that really landed for me, a lesson that landed for me quite a while ago, is the fact that you always, as an achiever, there's always going to be something to achieve. And if you are putting your happiness, if you're delaying your happiness on some time in the future, when you achieve a certain milestone, whether it's the end of the quarter or the end of the year, whatever it is, you get there and you achieve it, but you don't really celebrate. You just go on to the next thing and the next thing. That's because you're an achiever. And you set goals, you achieve them, you move on, you achieve them. So for as long as you want to delay your happiness, you're going to continue to delay your happiness. The reality is you're always going to be in the process. Always. Like, it's never going to end. Until the day that you stop growing, you're always going to be achieving something. Always, always, always. So with that being said, why not just embrace that fact and enjoy the journey and realize that right here, right now, life, this is the destination that you've been waiting for. Right here, right now is the moment. It is the destination. It's not the end of the quarter. It's not the end of the year. They're just moments in time. Right here, right now is what it's all about. You're always going to be in it because you're always going to be achieving.
Beautifully said. You're 100% right. You always will be achieving. And, when you hit your achievements, right? I almost don't want to say anything else because that was just so well said. So, and yes, we're recording this. So you have a copy of me saying that.
Yeah, I was going to say, I want to get that.
But it is well said. And I think to dovetail on that, Tim, it's really important for us guys, especially, with what you and I are up to right now and the rest of the people that are in this movement, is it's a movement. It's pulling us, very passionately in a direction. So it's easy to get caught up in that idea when you see these men transform and marriages saved, businesses saved, lives saved, really. And a couple of the guys have admitted that, hey, if this is as good as it gets, I might check out. And so when you hear that, you and I are like, oh my gosh, we need to reach as many men as possible and liberate them, free them from, society's constraints, essentially. It's almost like the Matrix. We feel like we're unplugging these guys in a great way. Like everybody's different and on their own journey. So I think what it also entails is celebrating your victories, even the small ones. And that could be a gratitude practice. It can also be listing, what are your 3 wins for the day? Right? Because we tend to move on, right? And, you and I have talked about as we build this movement, we're looking at the next step, right? We just run over the goals because we're going so quickly. We run over the goals that we set and we don't take time to really celebrate them. And I think that we can do that, as you said, in the moment, or at least by every day. And focusing on your wins, what tends to happen is you tend to win more. And I think as men, that's part, again, of that be, do, have formula.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Well, Tim, I think that's a wrap for this episode. I know you and I will continue talking and can go on for another couple hours as we tend to do. But let's call that a wrap for this episode. Guys, we will see you again for the next episode with another great table topic. Tim, always good to see you, man. And glad things are going so well. And we're both running on a high after that retreat.
Yeah, me too, man. Me too. It's addictive. So, yeah, the more men, the better. More men, the better.
All right, guys, we'll see you next time.